both locker rooms. We'll get a feeling from New England and Miami as well as Mike Ditka's feelings about his victory, another shutout today against the Rams, and maybe some early thoughts on these New England Patriots.
The two of them.
Are a great way to travel and to make the most of your tour in Korea. Here's a look at the latest MAC flight schedule from Osan Air Base.
Elaine is unhappy when her son decides to join Tony's youth boxing program.
But I never get to do the stuff I want to do. Because in this case, what you want to do is appalling and disgusting and dangerous to you and extremely distasteful to your mother.
You said the same thing about Pac-Man.
Taxi, Wednesday night at 7 on AFKN TV.
안녕하세요.
Hello and welcome to Talk Tips. When you want to say goodnight to someone in Korean, say
안녕히 주무십시오.
good night.
안녕히 주무십시오.
Have a good night.
안녕히 주무십시오.
Good night.
안녕히 주무십시오.
Discover Korea by enrolling in the Korean language program at your local education center. Thank you for joining us on Talk Tips, AFKN's daily Korean language program.
안녕히 가세요.
Goodbye.
This winter, stay warm and conserve energy. Insulate around doors and windows, and when you can, pull your drapes to shut out the cold. Warm up to energy conservation.
AFKN.
Edition of the AFKN News Hour, featuring military and local news from the Korea Newsline, in-depth reports and interviews from ABC's Nightline, and the latest news and sports via satellite from the Cable News Network.
Newsweek magazine says the Reagan administration's come up with a 6-point program to further isolate Libya. The strategy includes financing and encouraging Gaddafi's enemies inside and outside Libya, U.S. and allied monitoring of Libyan diplomats, and preparing military options for use if that need arises. Washington also will continue urging its allies for sanctions against Libya. Newsweek says the U.S. may intercept and interrupt its military deals with friendly nations if they continue to sell military supplies to Gaddafi. There's a new twist to the fighting in Lebanon this morning. 2 Christian militias are battling each other in the streets of East Beirut. Residents have been told to stay inside as troops loyal to the president Amin Gemayel fight it out with a rival Christian militia outfit. Key cabinet members in Israel have decided to submit a land dispute with Egypt to some international arbitration. This issue involves a strip of beach called the Taba. Israel had held it back when it returned much of the Sinai to Egypt in 1982, and the Taba has become a bone of contention between the two countries ever since. Secretary of State Schultz was booed and hissed by some prominent writers in New York City when he spoke to the conference of the international writers group PEN. Schultz delivered the welcome address, but he was not too welcomed. He was heckled when he praised the Reagan administration for what he said was its role in reducing government intrusion into the lives and minds of the individual. Several writers have signed a petition to the group's president, Norman Mailer, asking him to withdraw that invitation to Secretary Schultz.
There'll be a Washington, D.C. news conference this morning about MIAs from the Vietnam War. Assistant Secretary of Defense Richard Armitage led a delegation to Hanoi, which returned to the U.S. on Friday. Results will be discussed with news media today as the first Senate-led delegation to post-war Vietnam leaves for Indochina. This delegation includes the chairman of the Senate Veterans Affairs Committee, Frank Murkowski. He says his committee will look into claims claims the U.S. government is covering up eyewitness reports that captive Americans are still living in Vietnam. The government denies this.
Soviet dissident Yelena Bonner will undergo open-heart surgery today in Boston. The wife of exiled Nobel Peace Prize winner Andrei Sakharov came to this country for treatment of heart pains. When she failed to respond to treatment by drugs, doctors recommended bypass surgery.
Last week, capital cities ABC launched a corporate crackdown on drugs in the workplace. The new communication company owns newspapers, TV stations, and the ABC network. The company said countermeasures would be introduced, possibly including drug-sniffing dogs. The move raised a storm of objections, and one newspaper publisher received protest petitions, poems, and even a dog biscuit. Employees say the move violates their civil rights. The parent company now says drugs are still taboo, but is willing to talk about the problem.
Two new studies detail possible offensive uses for technology developed for Star Wars, the Strategic Defense Initiative. Both indicate Star Wars lasers could become powerful weapons, destroying enemy cities by fire. Now, in one study, a defense think tank compares the result of a laser attack to Armageddon. It says entire cities could be incinerated in a matter of minutes. The other study, by a government physicist, contains an equally fiery prediction. President Reagan says SDI lasers will be used to defend the United States against enemy attack.
The crew of the space shuttle Columbia is set to begin some comet gazing today. The astronauts will use the Earth itself to block out the sun in order to get a better view of Halley's Comet. 8 was the magic number for Columbia. It lifted off yesterday from the Kennedy Space Center after a series of delays that put the mission 25 days behind schedule. The shuttle crew got right down to work, launching a $50 million television satellite. Columbia and its 7-member crew are scheduled to return to Earth on Friday.
There was an unusual cast party last night in Washington. The setting was a shelter for the homeless, and the guests of honor were the street people of the nation's capital. CNN's Frances Harden has more.
It was a catered affair with a spread of French pastries, croissant sandwiches, flowers and candelabras, and even a live band. Waiters were in black tie. The guests came in the same attire they wear when huddling on the city's steam grates. The occasion is a kickoff party for the TV film of Mitch Snyder's work for Washington's homeless, including his 51-day hunger strike on their behalf. The site is the shelter, which houses up to 700 people on cold nights. Martin Sheen will play Mitch Snyder. The actor says Snyder convinced him to take the role.
So if our show raises the consciousness of just one person in our society to respond positively towards the homeless, then it's worth doing.
Many of Washington's homeless will also be in the movie as extras. They'll play themselves for $35 a day. Producer Charles Freeze presented Mitch Snyder with a check for $100,000 to be used for the homeless. Snyder says the film proves that the struggle for the street people has not been in vain.
We stood together. We clung to one another and we hung on for dear life. And that's the message. The moment that everybody comes together, in that moment, everything will become okay. So God bless you all.
Homeless will be together for 6 days with filming of the Mitch Snyder story beginning this week. Frances Harden, CNN, Washington.
Powerful winds battered Minnesota over the weekend. The Minneapolis area clocked gusts near 70 miles per hour. The wind whipped snow across highways, ripped roofs off of buildings, and tipped over ice houses at Minnesota lakes. The high winds are being blamed for fueling a fire in suburban Columbia Heights, Minnesota, yesterday that killed 2 people.
South African Bishop Desmond Tutu says government and religion do mix. The Anglican cleric made that statement last night before thousands of people at a Harlem church, one stop on his U.S. tour. He condemned his country's white minority government, and Tutu said history shows that God is on the side of blacks who are oppressed. He said his people who insist that church and state are separate are usually benefiting from the status quo. Bishop Tutu also said yesterday that if South Africa doesn't end apartheid by April, he'll risk treason by calling for U.S. economic sanctions. Bishop Tutu's outspoken efforts to bring racial justice to his country are bringing him an award here in the United States. Tutu is to be the 1986 recipient of the Martin Luther King Jr. Nonviolent Peace Prize.
You know, this year, for the first time, King's birthday is being honored as a national holiday in the United States 1 week from today. A week-long celebration in memory of the slain civil rights leader is already underway. CNN's Ed Garston reports from the city where King and his movement were born.
King Week kicked off Saturday with something called the Freedom Bowl in King's hometown of Atlanta. And that's where the first national observance of the civil rights leader's birthday will be centered. It's been a long march to this point, but marching is something King was used to. While efforts to establish a National King Day began soon after his death in 1968, the campaign hit high gear in 1982 on Capitol Hill. Under strong pressure from King's widow, Coretta, and the Martin Luther King Center for Nonviolent Social Change, the bill hit the House floor. But it only passed after lively debate and pleas by celebrities like Stevie Wonder. Even so, President Reagan opposed the holiday and explained his reasons to a group of school children when they pressed him on the issue.
But I would question creating another national holiday type of thing, because, as I say, then we open a door. Where do we stop?
Complicating the matter was North Carolina Senator Jesse Helms. He tried to get the FBI to release a report it had made on Dr. King. Helms said the report would show King was associated with communists.
He attacked this country in the most vicious way during the Vietnam War, and Ho Chi Minh was categorized as a hero in his book and that sort of thing.
Helms lost his battle, and so did President Reagan. The bill passed in 1983, and the president held an elaborate ceremony for the signing and sang a different tune.
Traces of bigotry still mar America. So each year on Martin Luther King Day, let us not only recall Dr. King, but rededicate ourselves to the commandments he believed in and sought to live every day.
The long road to King Day leads to this small road, Auburn Avenue. The black community that lives and works here calls it Sweet Auburn. Even as King Week begins, last-minute tidying goes on, and groups of pilgrims visit the King Center to learn more about the man and be close to what was close to him. And now the banners hang over Sweet Auburn, and the voices in the church sing out, heralding the end of a battle that took 17 years to gain 1 day of official recognition. Ed Garston, CNN, Atlanta.
A major collection of Near Eastern art that disappeared more than 4 decades ago will be going on exhibit in Washington soon.
CNN's David French reports the rediscovery of the treasure came from a casual dinner conversation.
Glenn Lowry is curator of Near Eastern art for 2 Washington museums. He knew all about the death in Paris 40 years ago of jeweler Henri Vevey. When they buried Vevey, his prized collection of rare Persian art faded from view as well. Glenn Lowry is very glad his mother went to dinner in Paris one evening in November of 1984.
Milo Beach and I, earlier on, had been discussing what would be absolutely ideal to discover if one possibly could do it. And that was probably 2 or 3 months before my mother met this person. And so when she came back with this information, it was spectacular.
A collection which is very important for research. There's a great deal of research material here, and it's very important simply for exhibitions because there is so much material that is very attractive to the general public.
The Smithsonian is buying the collection for $7 million. It consists of 461 pieces. Its owner, a relative of Henri Vevey who wishes to remain anonymous, stored the collection in New York to protect it from possible plunder by the Nazis who occupied France in World War II. Smithsonian officials are beside themselves with delight. There are illustrated pages as old as the year 1330. Several centuries are represented in the Islamic and Persian paintings and manuscripts.
They are also works of tremendously high quality, very, very finely painted works by major artists. And many of the works, more than 3/4 of the works, are completely unknown. They've never been reproduced. They've never even been referred to. No one knew they existed.
The Vevey collection will not go on display until the Sackler Gallery opens a year from next May. But the world has waited these past 40 years, and as in any good romance, a little wait only enhances the pleasure America's art world anticipates. David French, CNN, Washington.
What's showing at military movie theaters across the Republic tomorrow night. At Youngstown number 1, it's Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. At Youngstown number 2, it's Lost in America. At Camp Coiner and RC4, see The Man with One Red Shoe. At Camp Humphreys, it's Cocoon. At Osan Air Base, it's Silverado. At Camp Long and Camp Page, watch Just One of the Guys. At Camp Casey and Camp Carroll, it's Humongous. At Camp Hovey and K2 Air Base, it's National Lampoon's European Vacation. At Camp Red Cloud in Busan, enjoy Explorers. At Camp Stanley, it's The Outsiders. At Camp Ession, it's Science Project. At Camp Howes in Kunsan, see Perfect. At Camp Edwards West, it's Conan the Destroyer. At Camp Reeves and Gwangju Air Base, watch Pale Rider. And at Camp Henry, it's Invasion USA. Listen for the movie schedule daily on AFKN.
I tell you what, the entire day belonged to those Chicago Bears. Even the weather turned out to be bear weather, cold, windy, and even snowflakes at day's end. The Chicago Bears posted their second straight playoff shutout as they beat the Rams in the NFC title game 24-0. Beat hardly describes it, though. How about demolished or pummeled? Either one applies as the Bears earn a trip to New Orleans for Super Bowl 20, January 26th. They got all the points that they would need in a cold Soldier Field yesterday. In the very first period, when quarterback Jim McMahon doesn't find anybody open, but he finds an opening and gets into the end zone from 16 yards out, 7-0 with the extra point. They would add a field goal later in the period. And then the Rams completely botched up a chance to get on the board at the end of the first half. They were driving, had a chance to get in close, maybe for a field goal, but time ran out on this play, and it was still a shutout. No matter. After converting on 4th and 6 along the way against John Robinson's squad, the Bears, led by McMahon, who rolls out here, got into the end zone again. Willie Gault is in the end zone, grabs that touchdown pass. That made it 17-0 Chicago. The day was starting to get cold, but the Bears were red hot. Those upstart New England Patriots won their third straight playoff game on the road and snapped an 18-game losing streak in the Orange Bowl for the AFC title Sunday afternoon and early evening down in Miami. Dolphins took the lead in the second period. Don Johnson makes a great catch in the back of the end zone of this Danny Marino touchdown pass. That made it 7-3, Dolphins on top. But quarterback Tony Easton for New England got the Pats back with the first of 3 short touchdown passes for the day. This one goes to Tony Collins. He read the coverage and got it to him. That made it 10-7. 5 minutes later, he'll find Derek Ramsey open. Again, another short touchdown pass from Mr. Easton, rather. I'll get it. Here it is. Derek Ramsey on the receiving end. This made it 17-7 at the halftime break. Fourth period of play. Robert Weathers, who had gained almost 90 yards on the ground, will catch another touchdown pass. This one from 2 yards out, and the Patriots' squishing of the fish was on. Patriots in real good shape after this one. The afternoon summed up on this play. Late in the game, Dolphins turned the ball over or had it taken away 6 times, and this interception in the end zone by Raymond Claiborne sealed the Dolphins' fate and give the Patriots the victory and a trip to New Orleans themselves. 31-14 the final score there.
Help yourself. You don't need nobody else. Help yourself.
There's no need to call a plumber anymore. Your local area facility engineers will give you the necessary supplies, plus easy step-by-step instructions. Simply stop by your facility engineer's self-help center today.
Help yourself. You don't need nobody else. Help yourself.
Your local area facility engineers, helping you help yourself.
Good evening. There will be no cuts in the armed forces. The Associated Press says President Reagan is telling Congress that weapon systems will fill the budget-cutting acts before any military personnel are eliminated. Speaking on the ABC program This Week with David Brinkley, Secretary of Defense Caspar Weinberger says it's now up to Congress to find the $5.2 billion in defense cuts dictated by the Graham-Rudman deficit reduction law. And the Secretary says Congress must take a close look at any defense reductions.
I do think that the very serious damage can be done to the defense budget by a rigid application of this bill in the event Congress doesn't act responsibly and pass the President's budget. Let me give you just one example. If we hadn't had the flexibility that we had this year, and this year only under that bill, to exempt military personnel, we would have had to discharge and dismiss from the service over 200,000 people from our force right away within a matter of just weeks. A very large chunk out of the too small force that we have now, and that would have been required. Now, the way to avoid all this is for Congress to act responsibly and adopt the President's budget, in which case the Graham-Rudman trigger that forces these very drastic reductions won't ever come into effect.
The aim of the Graham-Rudman bill is to eliminate the federal deficit by 1991 and provide for automatic budget cuts if Congress and the President don't meet the deficit reduction targets. By placing military personnel in a no-cut status, both the President and the Secretary are telling Congress that the cuts will have to come from other areas of defense. In other news, the Army says it's run into problems identifying the remains of more than half of the 248 soldiers that were killed in a chartered jetliner crash on December 12th. But officials deny a report in the New York Times that says the Army is considering a mass burial of remains not yet identified. UPI reports that spokeswoman Elaine Henryon says the Army is still continuing to identify remains and feels optimistic about being able to identify most, if not all, of the soldiers. She adds that if the Army reaches a point where it is unable to identify any of the remains, it would only then consider a mass burial. Most people are aware that surviving in combat requires several skills. Technical skills that will allow you to use your equipment and weapons, skills of knowledge that will allow you to navigate the terrain, and sometimes just plain old common sense. Something as ordinary as field sanitation can prevent combat casualties. AFKN's Jeannie Marshall has a report on how the Army is training its soldiers in important life-saving techniques.
Field sanitation. It doesn't sound too exciting, but it's more than just a subject on the CTT test. Sergeant Raymond James from 5th Preventative Medicine points out that it's literally a matter of life and death.
We have a whole history full, go all the way back to Napoleon, and go through every army, any country, any time period, and find that if you overlook field sanitation, that you risk losing the battle because your soldiers are too sick to fight.
According to Sergeant James, 80% of the casualties in Vietnam were caused not by bullets, but by disease. The Army is well aware of the problem and is taking steps to keep it from happening again. The 91 Alphas, Bravos, and Charlies are, of course, the specialists in the field. But the Army also deals with the problem at the company level.
Each company-sized element that has a field mission within the United States Army is required to have a field sanitation team. It consists of one NCO and one other individual within the unit. It doesn't specify that other one.
Field sanitation classes, such as this one in Yongsan, are held quarterly. Representatives from various units come to learn how to be part of their unit's field sanitation team.
We provided classes in communicable diseases, rodent control, arthropod control, foodborne illness, field water sanitation. We also provide classes on field waste, as far as how to handle the field waste. Also, heat and cold injuries, and carbon monoxide is also a topic for us, since we are here in Korea with the Andal heating.
Once the soldiers have completed the class, they will return to their units and advise their commanders and NCOICs in how to keep their comrades in good fighting condition. Specialist Jeannie Marshall, AFKN News, Seoul.
Individual retirement accounts are one of the most highly advertised ways of preparing for the golden years. With so many different financial institutions offering the accounts, you may be confused about just what an IRA is and what are the advantages and drawbacks. Tonight, we start a 5-part series on individual retirement accounts. It's designed to answer some of your most basic questions. Bank District Manager Steve Britton will explain tonight what an IRA is. He says an IRA is not only a great way to plan for your retirement, but it also offers some benefits right now.
Account is an individual retirement account, which is an account which allows an individual to plan for his financial future by giving him an immediate tax benefit, that is reducing his immediate tax obligation by the amount that he contributes into his individual retirement account, and allowing him to defer the accumulation and additional interest on this account until such time as he makes withdrawals from the plan.
During the rest of the week, we'll look at what it takes to qualify for an IRA, exactly how an IRA can help your budget, and how to make contributions into your account. And on the subject of money, it's the first month of the year, and whether you want to or not, it's time to begin thinking about income taxes. This year's forms are somewhat different from last year's. For one thing, the deductible for family and self is larger than before. There are many other aspects to the 1985 forms that you need to know if you prepare your own tax forms. AFKN's Karen Loftus reports on a seminar sponsored by Legal Assistance. It was designed to answer questions and get the word out that help is available in your unit.
It's getting to be that time of year again, tax time. This year, as in years past, there will be an individual assigned as a tax advisor to assist you with your tax form and questions that you might have. Yesterday and today, these folks, who range from E4 to 06, have been boning up on their tax advisory skills with the help of a DoD tax seminar. Major John Beeson, who is the command judge advocate for Yongsan Garrison and the course manager, says this year the course will be a little different.
Historically, it has been done by the Internal Revenue Service. This year we have a change in that we have two attorneys, one from the Department of the Army, one from the Department of the Air Force, both of which are tax attorneys, tax qualified experts that are here to do this. And this is the intention of this is to have individuals who understand the military deductions, the military tax system better maybe than the Internal Revenue Service personnel.
Your unit tax advisor should be able to answer 90% of the questions thrown his or her way. And if they can't help you, they will assist you in getting in contact with the legal assistance office in your area.
Each of them are being told in this course, though, that they are not expected to be tax experts. They are all being given information as to the attorneys and the legal assistance officers throughout Korea that will be able to give them the direct assistance, and they're going to be making the phone calls. So I would say, from my personal opinion, they should be able to handle 80 to 90% of any tax question that comes in.
There may not be one individual for each unit, but there will be a card posted in your unit telling you who he or she is, their phone number, and the time that you can come in for assistance. With these individuals available, your questions don't have to go unanswered, no matter how small you think they are. Airman Karen Loftus, AFKN News, Seoul.
Ahead in the news, weather with Sergeant Paul Holcomb. Stay with us as the AFKN News Hour continues.
To ensure readiness, non-combatant evacuation operations exercises are conducted biannually in the Republic. All family members of U.S. military, DoD civilians, and their family members are encouraged to participate in the exercises and to maintain NEO kits. NEO kits contain vital documents that will help with your processing in the event of an actual emergency situation. USFK pamphlet 600-300 lists everything you need in your NEO kit. If you have any questions, contact your unit NEO warden.
Good evening. Last night, a few hours before midnight, a cold front rolled into the Korean peninsula. Snow started falling on the west coast and by the early morning hours had spread across much of the nation. Some of the southern locations reported rain and snow mixed and rain. Most of the precipitation had ended nationwide. about several hours after daybreak this morning. Snowfall accumulations, except for some of the higher mountain elevations, were generally less than 2 inches, but it still made for some hazardous driving conditions this morning. Skies started to scatter out rather rapidly this afternoon, and tonight skies generally clear across the majority of the Republic. Let's go to the weather satellite photo now. That low-pressure system responsible for the snow moved rapidly eastward and is now affecting the Japanese islands. A high-pressure ridge is moving in behind, but this one, we shouldn't have the extreme cold temperatures that have been the trademark of the last several high-pressure systems. Tomorrow should be partly cloudy with patchy, dense fog in places, and then a warming trend in the afternoon. On Wednesday, quite foggy in the morning, but then partly cloudy and warm once again Wednesday afternoon. On the Asian weather map today, snow showers in 36 at Misawa, rain showers and rain at Tokyo, Kadena Air Base, and Taiwan. Mainland Asia was reporting clear to partly cloudy skies today, and afternoon temperatures ranged from 12 degrees at Vladivostok to 88 degrees at Clark Air Base in the Philippines. On the Korean weather map, the nation's lows were 3 degrees at Kotar Range, 11 degrees at Camp Long, the highs 43 at Pusan, 41 at Sachon and Chejido. Other afternoon highs were generally in the 20s and 30s, ranging from 24 in the capital city to 39 at Pohang. The forecast for the remainder of tonight, fair to partly cloudy over the majority of the Republic with a chance for some snow shower activity along the southwest coast tonight. Winds will be northwesterly at 10 to 15 miles per hour with gusts of 25 to 35 miles per hour along the east coast. Temperatures will fall into the low teens to the mid-20s overnight. Tomorrow, fair to partly cloudy skies with patchy dense fog in the morning. Winds west to northwest at 5 to 10 miles per hour, and afternoon temperatures should be warmer, ranging from the low 30s to the upper 40s. And as far as the extended outlook goes, once again, we're expecting general fog on Wednesday morning, then partly cloudy and warmer on Wednesday afternoon. It looks like the next chance for any significant snowfall would appear to be sometime on Thursday. Connie?
Thank you, Paul. Now it's time to take a look at road conditions around the Republic. As you can see, reporting amber are Camp Casey, Coburn, Stanley, Pelham, Long, Page, Red Cloud, Gwangju, Kunsan, and Osan air bases. All other areas are reporting green. One of the best ways to give of yourself is the giving of blood. AFKN's Perry Blake says a number of people at Osan gave of themselves in an effort to help others.
The precious gift of blood is one that is always in fashion. Members at Osan turned out to give of themselves during Osan's annual blood drive. Members of the 121 Evac Hospital from Yongsan conducted the drive, and the goal was to get at least 100 prospective donors. What prompts a person to give blood?
It's the gift of life, and I just feel like it's very important that we help each other.
Painless, easy way to help other people out. I know that nature of blood is perishable, and they need to keep replenishing their stocks, so I think it's really easy for somebody to just come out here and spend a half hour or so and give blood. Plus, it's probably the easiest way to lose 2 pounds I can think of. That's about it.
The drive did have one special need.
Well, in particular this week at Yongsan, we're short of A positive due to a lot of problems in the OB clinic and in the ward. So A positive is what we need right now, but any blood type would be helpful.
One of the concerns of people today is that they can contract AIDS from donating blood. Not true. AIDS can only be contracted from receiving, not giving blood. The blood collected, however, is screened for AIDS and hepatitis. We learned from Osan's project officer, First Lieutenant Renita Rome. She also explained the disposition of the blood.
This blood is going to the hospital at Yongsan, and it's going to stay in the medical facility, mostly for the military and dependents.
When the blood drive comes to your area, remember, when you give, you're giving the gift of life. The people at Osan certainly did their part. Air Force Sergeant Perry Blake, AFKN News, Osan.
Last week, we started an in-depth look at the Army's promotion system. Some of the subjects covered promotions in the Special Forces and why we have to wait sometimes to gain that additional stripe. Tonight, Sergeant Lane Casca, the NCOIC of the Enlisted Promotions section of the 199th Personal Service Company, talks about the policies for promotion to Sergeant First Class. Casca says there have been some changes.
The promotion to Sergeant First Class, as the system now stands, the selection itself is not going to be changed. They'll still have a E7 centralized selection board held by the people in Alexandria and in Fort Ben Harrison, Indiana, once a year. They will select from those eligible in the time zones from date of rank, those that they feel are the best number to be selected for promotion to E7. The new change, and it doesn't affect the selection system now, only in the way that the promotions are allotted by MOS. In the old system, you were allotted a sequence number based on your date of rank as opposed to all other persons on the E7 list. Now they're going to break it down by MOS and issue sequence numbers within the MOS so that they can control how many persons within each particular MOS are getting promoted each month as opposed to how many they feel that they need. That way they have a much tighter control on overages and underages in each particular MOS.
Tomorrow night, Sergeant Casca will explain how to increase the number of your promotion points to gain that next stripe. That's our report for tonight. I'm Specialist Tani Sanchez. For Sergeant Paul Holcomb and everyone here at AFKN News, thank you for joining us. Please stay tuned for the late movie. Good night.
The AFKN News Hour, a production of the American Forces Korea Network. In touch with your world.
The most current popular music, interesting features, and insights are yours on AFKN AM, your total entertainer. Every weekday from 5 in the morning until 10. First, catch your local morning watch at 5, and then it's Charlie Tuna at 9 o'clock. It all comes your way on AFKN AM, your total entertainer. Winter road conditions in the Republic of Korea are often hazardous. Before you go out, there's a number you should call to get the current road conditions with updates as they occur. Dial 293-8000 at any time of the day or night. Drive safely and plan ahead, and we'll all have an accident-free winter. This service is provided by the Army and Air Force law enforcement agencies throughout the Republic.
Your Exchange new car sales contractors are now accepting orders for delivery in May and June of 1986. Stop by your new car sales point and check out the 1986 lineup.
AFKN's Monday Late Movie. Tonight, 5 Desperate Women, starring Stephanie Powers. 5 college graduates who reunite to relive old memories are soon running for their lives from a mental hospital escapee. 5 Desperate Women, the AFKN Monday Late Movie.